Welcome back to the Jennuine Life podcast. This is the show where stories around inspiration, mental health, lifestyle, and relationships collide to ensure that you are living your best life. And you guessed it, genuinely. I'm your host, Jennifer Nicole, and I'm so glad you've chosen to spend yet another week right here with me. So go ahead, grab your favorite beverage, sit back, relax, take a deep breath in. Now breathe it out. Good. Now, let's start the show. Hello, beautiful people. It's me, your host, Jennifer Nicole, and welcome back to another episode of the Jennuine Life podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I'm so glad that you are here. I hope you had a great week and weekend. And of course, I hope you're staying safe, sane, and sanitized. Did you miss me? I missed you too. And now, go ahead and grab your beverage. I gave you a few seconds in the intro there. Go ahead and grab whatever it is that you're sipping on. I have some hot tea today because, child, I don't know. We don't need wine for this episode. I need you to focus, okay? Because I have a guest today that is here that is going to be giving you some really, really valuable information, okay? So I don't need you to be tipsy. I need you to be focused. I have Darwyn on the show. Darwyn is a husband, a father, and an entrepreneur, and he took a bet on himself last year and he has never looked back. Okay, so he is here. He's going to drop some gems. Darwyn, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited
Absolutely.
to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate extremely great intro. I hope I do you and your audience justice here. Um, I try to, as much as I'm a student of life, I try to give as much back as I possibly can. So I appreciate
Oh,
um,
no problem.
that lead in. But my name is Darwyn Young. I'm the CEO of Emerson Gray and Young Real Estate Group. And Emerson Gray and Young Investment Group. We primarily focus on connecting buyers to their dream homes, helping sellers make thoughtful decisions on their real estate assets, and really assisting investors or potential investors with identifying the right investments for their portfolios. I'm a licensed realtor in the state of Georgia. I work with one of the largest brokerages in the world in Keller Williams and the largest team in Atlanta, the Keller Williams In-Town Realty team. As Jen said, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a native of Michigan, Detroit, living in Atlanta since 2007. I have four beautiful kids, three girls, one boy, Grace, Kennedy, Dallas, and Drew, who keep us super busy, but are the centerpiece of our universe. And we do everything around with them in mind. So super happy to be here. Love to be a part of a forum and platform like this. So thanks again, Jen. Appreciate it.
No problem. And I love that because I think a lot of times when we talk about really when we're taking a bet on ourselves, yes, we're keeping ourselves at the forefront, but when we have families and little ones, right, that we're leaving legacies
Absolutely.
behind, they are at the forefront as well as what we're doing as to what we're doing as well. So thank you
100%.
for letting us
Yep.
know who you are. But talk to us a little bit more about what it is that you do, because you talked a little bit about real estate. I heard investments,
Hmm.
and I know for me, and maybe some of my listeners may feel the same. If that is not something that we're familiar with, it can sound
No,
intimidating, right?
absolutely.
Especially when we're only familiar with buying or selling a home.
Right.
And, we've heard a lot now about stocks here recently. It can
Hmm.
sound a little scary. So, talk to us a little bit about what it is that you do and how you make it less scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess taking maybe a half a step back. I mean, before I jumped into real estate full force as an entrepreneur, I worked as a vice president of operations at a commercial real estate brokerage for a number of years. I worked in consulting before. So really, I've been in the people business for a long time. And what I saw sort of looking at the market, especially for our community, when I speak of our community, I'm thinking, the Black community, is that it wasn't that we didn't have the resources or the know-how necessarily to be successful investors or, real estate investors, what have you. It was just the connectivity to the information, right? And realtors sort of have gotten a bad rap over the years. A lot of times when you think of realtors, you think of more of the ambulance chaser, right? They're sort of there to make a commission and not really focus too much on your needs. But my goal was to try to merge both worlds, right? Where you have someone who is an advocate for their client, right, that really wants to see their client be successful and make the right investment in the particular piece of land or real estate asset, but really educating them along the way, right? I think it's the model of teaching someone to fish is much more important, I think, than catching fish for them, right? So if you walk them through the process the right way, a potential buyer, seller, investor, the next time they think of you, right? They think so. It's sort of a built-in referral base, but also educating people along the way. And I think customers or clients in general appreciate that much more.
Agree. I
Yep.
agree. I agree.
So sorry, I don't know if I answered your question, but but
No, yeah,
I
no, you
help.
did.
Okay. Yeah, so I help investors, make investment decisions on their real estate assets. Obviously any seller or buyer that's looking to either buy or sell real estate, I certainly help educate and transact with them and help them make the best decision for them and their families. And I really work more in a consultative capacity.
Mm,
I'm not pushing, products or any of that on a customer or client. My goal, first of all, is to uncover your needs, the why behind the purchase, right? Like, what are the things that are most important to you, and then help you to sort of arrive at the decision to either buy or sell real estate, right? Or maybe we uncover once we go through the process that it's not the right time, right? And that's perfectly fine as well. So, I'm not focused primarily on a commission upfront. I'm focused on uncovering my client's needs, and then hopefully, the business side sort of takes care of itself.
okay. And so this is, I kind of want to understand a few things too, because I'm
Sure.
wondering if, so let's kind of talk to like this person. Let's talk to me, right?
Okay.
Completely
Do it.
oblivious. I have
Okay.
no clue what I'm doing, right?
Okay.
Probably every single term that you would throw out at me in a meeting would go over my head.
Hmm.
Am I too
I think you got
early
to
in
give
my
yourself a little bit more. No, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. 95% of real estate agents feel the same way, and we've gone to school and got certified. So
Okay, then that's good to know.
yeah,
Kind of good, but then a little scary too.
a little bit, a
But
little bit.
but okay, so then that's comforting to know. So
Yep.
then what would you say to someone, right?
Yep.
If they wanted to come to work with you, how much should they be prepared for? Like what are some things that they should bring to a meeting?
Sure.
What should they be prepared to talk to you about? And
Hmm.
actually we'll stop there because I feel like that's a kind of a loaded question too. So what are some things that they
Yeah.
should
So
be
generally, what I
prepared
do
for?
is, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, generally, what I do is do a pre-qualification call before we even meet in person, and I sort
Mm,
of walk
mhm.
through, a 15 question sheet that I use, you know, to sort of pre-qualify a person, right? Like, what's the motivator? And then obviously we talk about price point, we talk about area of town, but the why for me is the most important component of that, right? Right? Like, are you looking? Is this a first time? Are you a first time home buyer? Are you looking at this as a forever home? Are you looking at this as an investment property? Are you looking at a 1 to 4 unit? Are you looking at a single family, a condo, and sort of why at the root of those things, why is that important, or why are those particular asset types important? So that's really the one thing I ask for. I mean, certainly if a person has gotten pre-qualified and they're a little bit further down the process, I certainly will want to see a pre-qualification letter from a lender. But if this is just a first time meeting, all I want to know is, hey, what's the motivation? What's your potential price point? All the other financial factors and the execution is really up to the realtor or on my shoulders to help provide and guide. But again, having that firm understanding of the why is the most important thing for me. Um, you know, but in terms of tangible things, I would say pre-qualification. If you have, your W-2 from the prior year, so that we can at least have a preliminary discussion about what a pre-qualification or pre-approval would look like based on what's on paper,
Okay.
and then we can get a timetable in place as to when that next step is, right? Whether it's, if you have some challenges in your credit or your job history, we may be at a 6 month to a year time frame versus maybe a quarter, right? Or less, right? It just really depends on each individual person's situation. But yeah,
I
that's
like
generally where
that.
I start.
Okay. Okay, so and I think that's good for people to know, right? Because kind
Hmm.
of going back to what you talked about
Sure.
at the beginning is this, it's not that the resources aren't there. It's like
Hmm.
almost, I know for me sometimes when I have an idea, it's not necessarily knowing where to start. And
Right.
then because of that overwhelming feeling of not knowing where to start or what I need, you just kind of give up on it and you move on to the next thing.
Yep.
And so kind of hearing, having the strategy in place and knowing that it's more of a consultative approach that you take with people versus this, don't come to me until you have this, or
Hmm.
I'm not working with you. Um, I think it's comforting for people to know that there are options out there. And I
Absolutely.
know during a call that we had before, you talked about a few things that surprised and educated me as well. And so, can you talk to people who out there who might actually have challenged credit, that letting them know that there are options out there for them as well, and
Yeah,
opportunities to work with
absolutely.
you?
I mean, every lender has different criteria for loans that they're going to approve. But for the most part, there are programs that we can help people with challenge credits or student loan debt or any number of things, right? The expectation, I think, sometime in the market with potential customers is that, hey, I got to have, an 800 credit score. I got to have 20 grand saved. I got to have, clean credit history. All of my, student loans have to be paid or at least being paid on. And that's just not necessarily the case, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think, 90%, I think I read a stat a couple of weeks ago at 92% or 93% of homeowners have some form of student debt,
Mm.
and maybe a little bit more than that had student debt at the time their loan was approved. So that's certainly not a deterrent. There are programs. I'll say for me personally, when I purchased my home a couple years back, I had, probably about 25, between 15 and 25,000 in student loan debt for my master's program that I just
Mm.
hadn't gotten around to paying on, right? Because my earnings hadn't necessarily caught up. And my lender at the time had a program where I paid up to a certain point before we closed, right? It was like a 4 month window of time where I had applied for the loan, and then up until that 4 month point, I could have paid up on my balance, and they still approved my loan, and I was able to put the rest in deferment up until I closed. So there's certain
Wow.
creative ways that lenders and real estate professionals can kind of work around that. Certainly, if the person has the 800 credit score and the 20 grand saved and all that, if they want to work with me, I'm certainly open to doing it. But for the most part, us ordinary people that don't necessarily have that kind of set up from the word go, there are programs out there that can help.
See, that's good to know. That's
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yep.
Um, so I kind of want to take a step back too, because one of the things that I'm a big believer here on this show is I don't ever want my listeners. While I believe in a 9 to 5. If
Hmm.
everyone's not called to be an entrepreneur, and I want everyone who listens to my show to know that everybody's path is different. But I also want anyone who does have the call on their life to be, an entrepreneur that does feel stuck in the 9 to 5 cycle, to feel encouraged to know that other people out there are taking the chance to step out on their own. And I know
Hmm.
that is something that you mentioned earlier that you, in fact, have done. And so,
Yep.
talk to everybody here. What sparked that switch for you? Like, what was the moment that you said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I mean, I heard you mention at the beginning you were a VP. And
Yep.
in anybody's mind, that's almost like security 101, right?
Yep.
In a
Absolutely.
job. And so kind of talk to us about what sparked the moment that you said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I mean, I was always one that knew that there was a shelf life for me in corporate America,
Mm, mm-hmm.
just because the rings or hoops that you have to jump through to be accepted or be moved on to the next stage were just too
Mm,
high a bar for me, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice my individualism, my personality, my culture, etc., in order to fit in a box that was deemed appropriate and acceptable by a few.
mm-hmm.
So for me, it was always like, hey, I'm doing this as sort of a means to an end. And I always, I always had a passion for real estate. I was an investor before I got into, the real estate game full time. So I had some experience touring houses, renovating houses, et cetera. So for me, it was you know, it was an easy transition. But I'll say what sparked it was really partially the onset of the pandemic, um, because I just had the time, right, to kind of sit back and do a real serious evaluation of what I wanted my life to look like, the kind of flexibility I wanted, and to really create the roadmap for how I wanted me and my family to be able to moving forward. So for me, I just gave myself the time and energy, and was productive during that time where we sort of had off in that lull period, to make some moves and to put myself in a better spot. And it was just, it was just simple as that, right? It wasn't a 6 month or a year time frame where I was sort of mulling the decision over and kind of going back and forth. It was just, over the series of, the first 4 or 5 months of the pandemic, I just sat back and said, yeah, this is it for me, right? I have the skill set. I've cut my teeth at some of the best companies. I know how to, I'm a business minded person. I'm a savvy person. I'm a hustler. Let me go ahead and step out there and bet on myself. And
Oh my
honestly,
gosh.
I wouldn't look back for anything in the world. And I'll tell you this. I mean, you probably heard this quote, and your listeners have probably heard this, but the paycheck is what an employer gives you to throw your dreams out the window. It's 100% true, right?
Yeah.
Because we all had the opportunity to step out there and do great things in our personal lives, professional lives, working for ourselves, and really being that, being that advocate for our own thing. But the comfort, right, and the stability, the 401k, the retirement, the vacations, the PTO, all those key terms, right, that we don't want to walk away from in corporate America, become a little bit of a crutch,
Mhm.
the longer
Mhm.
you stay. So for me, it was like, hey, it's time, right? And really, truly um, seeing the way corporate functions over a period of years, in that, hey, you can always be promoted, but you're never going to grow yourself in a way that is truly monumental to do anything other than be a better asset for the corporation, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think when you can get in an uncomfortable space and realize, hey, it may be uncomfortable first couple of years. I gotta, figure things out. There may be more losses than wins up front, but if you're able to weather that storm and perfect your craft, I mean, it's nothing like being at the top, knowing that you did it on yourself, or you did it on your own, right, or partially on your own.
Love that.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Couple of
Oh,
questions here.
yep.
This
Okay.
is good. This is really good.
You see, I got it. I
Okay.
got it in my bag like Kyrie just did.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting me amped up over here because you said so many things. You said so many things because so I
Yeah.
kind of want to go back to this because I
Yep.
think because you and I both know your
Yep.
whole life can change in a year, right? It can
Absolutely.
change in a
Yep.
year. So were you working your business part-time
I
that you would
was. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'd already, like I said, I've been an investor. I was looking for, additional assets to invest in locally. So I was doing that sort of on the side, right, and
Gotcha.
nights and weekends. Um, and yeah, so yep, on the side I was doing my business and then working full time in corporate.
Gotcha. Okay, so
Yep.
let's talk about that
Yep.
because I know that you have we heard you mention you have a family, you have a wife, you have 4 kids.
Hmm.
Um what was the time management like for you? Because you're getting up, you're working. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so
Yep.
you're home. You're also trying to deliver deliverables at your 9 to 5, but then you're still trying to be dad, to be
Hmm.
husband. So talk to everybody about how do you balance your dreams with your responsibilities and your health, your mental health, because I think
Yep.
it's important that we highlight that as well.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that when you're trying to hit your dreams?
Yeah, I'm honestly still working on it. If I'm 100% transparent, I
Yep.
think having a great partner, and my wife is incredible. I mean, she
Yeah.
is really the rock that sort of keeps me, grounded and focused on what I need and have to do with respect to my
Love it.
family and my business, right? So she's incredible. Um, but I'll say, for me, it's sort of an ongoing struggle, right? Because I'm such a self motivated person, and
Mm,
I'll wake up, at 4 or 5 in the morning, and
okay.
start looking for properties or responding to emails or whatever the case may be, things that need to be done. and then work a full day, right? Work a full 9 to 5, and then maybe take 2 or 3 hours to kind of hang out with family in the evening and have dinner and put the kids to bed, do the whole nightly routine, and then I'll jump back on at 11 o'clock, right? So
Got it.
I think that's just the way you got to do it. Unless you're privileged enough to have a bunch of idle time during the day where you can do small tasks and kind of help toward the overall goal. But that's how I'm doing it at the moment. And then obviously my
Mm-hmm.
weekends are king, right? I mean, I don't have a ton of time to just BS, right, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
up on the computer. I'm doing various things Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. And I do take a little bit of time out. I play a little golf in my free time.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go play 18 and kind of unwind, and that's sort of my version of self care Sunday. So I do a little bit of that to keep some balance. But yeah, I mean, it's a business that never sleeps, and especially you don't have, I don't have a salary coming in, right? I'm not an employee
Yeah.
anymore, so
Mm-hmm.
what I eat is what I kill, essentially, or what I'm able to get done from that standpoint. So yeah, but to answer your question, it's an ongoing struggle. It's something that I'm learning to do better every single day that I'm doing what I'm doing. And I like to think that every day I'm getting better at it.
That's good. And I think you also, I think it's important to highlight that is huge. It's
Hmm.
important to when you are with a partner, and it doesn't even have to be a spouse, right? A
Sure.
spouse, obviously, but when we're thinking about who we're sharing and building our dreams with, I think it's
Hmm.
so important to even think about who we're linking ourselves with. Are they supporting our dreams? Because
100%.
like I think that speaks volumes too, because allowing, I'm sure she has a ton on her plate managing what she needs to do while
Hmm.
you're doing what you need to do, is helping to build that foundation that you both are being able to lay down
Absolutely.
for your kids, so
Yep.
I think that that was such a gem, as well as
Yeah,
is
and I tell you, I mean, when I told my wife that, when I finally made the decision and said, "Hey, this is the direction I'm going in,"
hmm.
and her response was, you know, "What you've been waiting on this whole time, right?"
Oh, I love it.
she's
Oh,
like,
I just
she,
love it.
she's like, okay, this is what we're
I
doing.
love
All
it.
right, good. We're solid, and she understands that there's a period where we have to sort of focus our energies in certain places rather than others, and she's able to pivot and do what needs to be done to make sure our lifestyle stays and maintains, and that I'm focused enough to get the job done. But her first statement, and for a man, for any male listeners out there that have wives or spouses or significant others, that if there's a major decision that you want to have, sometimes there's a little bit of that hesitation. Like,
Yeah.
let me make sure this is foolproof before I step to my lady and let her know
Yeah.
there's going to be some changes around here. But
Yes. Yep.
she sort of let me, she has enough trust in me and my decision making and how I process to to bring these types of things to her in that situation. She just reaffirmed, everything that I knew to be true about her from day one. That she's a
Love it.
writer and she's all about it. So yeah, that certainly helped and alleviated some of the angst that I would have
Pressure.
had in another situation if my significant other wasn't as great as she is. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's
that's
so
just
awesome.
yep, yep.
And I was listening to something this week. I can't remember what it was, but it was a sermon, but
Hmm.
he said, the greatest gift is not love, it's trust. Because if
Hmm.
somebody can love you, but if they can't trust you, it literally negates everything.
Wow,
Everything. And so trust is
that's
like
facts.
the biggest thing,
Hmm.
because think about it. I mean, if she couldn't trust you with this huge decision, you
Hmm.
know, this would never be. So I just think I just love that part of the story. I'm
Yep,
so here for it.
yep,
Cool. So you kind of touched
yep.
on this a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But you mentioned self-care Sunday, which happens to be one of my what's the tea kind of questions. You mentioned golf. So is that something that you kind of take some time out for yourself and kind of spend some time doing on Sundays in particular?
Well, I can't, given the kind of business that I'm in, I can't necessarily relegate it to only Sundays. Sometimes I'm out on
Mhm.
Tuesday or Wednesdays. It really just depends on what my client needs are. But That's my version of self care. I do more of it on the weekends just because it makes more sense. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I do, and it's a family affair. Sometimes I get my little now 4 year old. He had a birthday on Saturday yesterday.
Oh.
He's out there playing with me a little bit, and he's actually spanking dad sometimes. So not only are we not only are we out there taking care of our mentals and enjoying the atmosphere, but we get a little bit of bonding time in with my little guy too. So yeah, that's my version of self care Sunday for sure.
I love that. That's
Yep.
awesome. So this one is somewhat of a big one here,
Uh huh.
and if you, I want to know what advice, if you were sitting across the table with your 10-year-old self right now, what advice would you give your 10-year-old self?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the what I would say is just do you. Everybody will adjust, right?
Mm,
I think that's the advice. You got to walk in your own purpose. You got to walk and know that what you feel is right for yourself. You just got to walk in that and execute in that, right? Let the chips fall where they may, but happiness is key. In everything that you do, vision and passion is key. So focus on those things, right? Like be you, focus on your passion and run that direction as fast as you can.
love it.
Yep.
Oh, that's one thing I wish I had learned early too.
And stay away from the little girls too. Stay away from them and focus on getting yourself right. That's for the teenage me, 13, 14-year-old me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice too. That
Yep,
is so
yep,
awesome.
yep.
So, guys, I'm gonna make sure I put all of this in the show notes, for sure. But Darwin, please make sure you let people know. Just take a second here. How can they keep up with you? What are some of the best ways that they can either reach out to you or just keep up with what you're up to and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a social media presence. You guys can find me on Facebook as well as Instagram at Emerson Gray Young. So that's spelled EMersonGrayYoung. You can find me there. Certainly can reach out to me via email. My email is emersongrayyounginvestment at gmail.com, or give me a call, text at 678 800 We'd love to hear from you. Love to work with you, provide any perspective or guidance that I can.
That is so awesome. And I, again, will put all of that information in the show notes for you all, in case anyone's driving. I don't want you to like trying to write all this down while you're on 285 or 85.
Yeah, don't do
We don't
that.
want
We
any
already got
issues.
enough problems out there in Atlanta. Don't
Okay?
don't take and drive. Don't don't no take and
Please.
drive.
Please, we will get the information to you the best way possible. But
Yep.
again, I cannot thank you enough for just taking the time and really, I've never had anybody on my show, really educating anybody in this direction. And so you're welcome to come back anytime, even if
Oh,
this
I'm gonna
is like
take
a
you up on that.
quarterly
That's
thing.
great.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it, because I think this is a direction I really am all about. Generational wealth. I want to see everybody win. I want us to be exposed to different ways that we can begin to build wealth within not only the Black community but all communities. I want to see people win, and the only way to do that is through education. And so,
Absolutely.
I really want to see you here again, if you don't mind. If this,
Yes, please let me know
couple,
whenever.
yeah,
I'll come back.
okay,
I'll come back
perfect,
and hang out with you guys and offer what I can for sure. I'd love that.
awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you were able to laugh, learn something, or just let your hair down for a bit. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. I always enjoy our time together each week and definitely want to continue to connect with you. So be sure to join our Facebook group, search the Jennuine Life Podcast on Facebook, and make sure to text Hey Girl to 908-895-5452, where I can text positive messages directly to you, or feel free to follow me on Instagram at Jennuine Life. I look forward to meeting you right here next week on Monday, and I hope you have have a fantastic week, Genuine Lifers. Be great. Don't forget to journal. And if no one else tells you, you're fabulous. Have a good one.